Hello, Michael the Irish Football Fan TV. This is the starting 11 show for Republic of Ireland versus Ukraine in the UEFA Nations League. It's our second game of this campaign, and it's one that I feel like we have to get some sort of result out of. Firstly, for the team's sake, and secondly, for Stephen Kenny's sake. If he's to drop more points here, or lose the game essentially against the second string Ukraine side, which is likely going to be. It's gonna just have everyone out with the pitchforks for Stephen's head, and it's a game I think that we have to go and try and win. So look, I'll get into it without further ado. I'm gonna go with Caoimhín Kelleher in goal. We know Gavin Bazunu is out with a back injury, and he was the keeper in at the weekend, so I don't understand the reason to try and change that. So I just stick with him in goal, just purely based on that decision. Mark Travers is probably unlucky not to get a look in this window. He may get a look in the two later games, who knows, but usually if a keeper's brought in, unless he's carried a knock or something, then it looks as though Kelleher will play anyway. So I'm going to go with him in goal. I'm going to stick with the same back three that played against Armenia. Look, I think Shane Duffy, he was at the press conference today. He's the captain, it seems, for this game. He's our leader when Seamus Coleman isn't there. He hasn't had a bad season overall. I know towards the end, his performances and appearances weren't up to scratch by his standards. But look, we know that majority of the time when Shane Duffy plays for Ireland, we can count on him. So I'd have him in there, John Egan beside him. Again, another player I always feel like we can count on. And like, if you think about all the games that he's played for, he's never really done anything to let Ireland down. Absolute warrior and comfortable on the ball, and is able to drive into space with the ball when needed. So I think John Egan is essential to have in there. And then Nathan Collins, I think, is deserving of his place. I think he was the best of the back three the last game against Armenia. I know that game wasn't great, but I did think he had a good game overall himself, and done himself absolutely no harm in staying in Stephen Kenny's thoughts. Darragh O'Shea probably feels a bit hard done by there, which you could imagine, and maybe Darragh Lenihan as well. But look, I think those three just keep that continuity there with the goalkeeper as well. Then on my wing backs, I'm going to have Cyrus Christie come in. I feel as though the other day was the game to play Cyrus in, and use his pace to get at the opposition, and maybe this time around that's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see if Cyrus starts this game. I wouldn't be against Festi playing either, but I'm going to just go with Cyrus just purely based on experience. He's played in the Aviva in big games, and he's used to it at this stage. Whereas Festi coming in, it might be a daunting task if he's up against a good winger for the Ukraine. So I think Cyrus would be the best bet in there. And then left wing back, I'd put James McLean in there. Usually when we're playing in a game when we need a reaction, he usually comes back into the team, and he usually kind of sets a bit of a tone. So I think having him in there makes sense. He's come off a really good season with Wigan, and I know he didn't do much when he came off the bench against Armenia, but I do think that the form that he's been in. He won the league with Wigan. He's over 10 plus goals. Got a number of assists as well. Had a really good season at Wigan, his best season in a while, to be fair. And I think, why not give him a go? It looks as though Enda Stevens is struggling as that player to get up and down, and I don't think McLean has ever been one of those players who struggles with his endurance. He's supposed to be a bit of a freak athlete. So I'd have McLean in there. Then the one player I don't think we can play any game without right now is Josh Cullen in that holding midfield role. I'd probably have two holding midfielders, himself and Jason Malumbi, just to give us that energy to get us around, but as well as that Malumbi can carry the ball forward for us if needed. So I'm going to go with him in there. I think the two of them make sense. Malumbi looks sharp. He's just signed for West Brom. Finished the season strongly with them, and I think having him in midfield there to give us that energy, because just Hendrick looked a bit jaded the last day, probably just a lack of games, and obviously we know Malumbi's been playing, so I think having Malumbi in there makes sense. Then my two kind of attacking midfielders slash wing forwards, if you like, I'm going to go with Chiodozie on the right hand side. I'm going to go with Callum Robinson on the left hand side. And I'm hoping that this time around they can get at this team. I feel as though they didn't really do much the other day. I think at the Aviva, it's a different animal for this side to kind of get into them really early on and try and get a goal. When we've got into teams early and got the early goal, we tend to batter them. I think of the Qatar game, and I think of some of the other games we played when we got in early, and set the tone early. We got into the game. The Azerbaijan away as well, when we scored early there, we kind of took the game to them. Then I think if we score early, also it draws them onto us, and then we're probably best when we're playing a counter attack. So I think that makes sense to have those two there, and then Michael Obafemi up front didn't have a good game against Armenia. Doesn't really deserve to start based on that appearance, but if you're going based on form over the whole season, I think he's the one that makes the most sense. And I think if you have those players around him from the start, it could be interesting to see, could we catch the Ukrainians on the hop, especially if it's a second string team. So that's the team I've gone with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that team, and let us know who you would have in your 11 and what formation you play as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe, check out all our other content on the channel. All the press conferences from this week are all up on the channel. All of our own content is up there as well, and it's all available on podcasts as well. So what more do you want? You don't have to pay for any of this. All we ask you to do is like the video and subscribe, and maybe share it around to your mates who don't follow us, who you might say to give us a follow. So let us know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.